Once upon a time, on a dark, rainy and cold night, where you can see a tall, slender man with brown hair like his eyes, dressed as a military man, who was in front of a grave lamenting the painful departure of his father, the only person who was always by his side. All this while he tells us that he has managed to survive these last 5 years. Suddenly a soldier appears to inform him of the status of a mysterious arrangement. He informs him that the executives of the Glory Group, or also called the Glorious Group, have changed their leader. The group they were initially looking for is nowhere to be found. This bothers the general, who cannot believe that they have disappeared without a trace, so he asks to continue with the investigation. Just at that moment, lightning illuminates the grave where his father lies, revealing his name, Zhang Tiancheng. Finally, after many years of waiting, he will get revenge on those who killed his father. The soldier interrupts him, letting him know that there is something else he must deliver. His wife, Miss Wang Zuwu, had left her phone number on a card for him to contact her and pick him up once he is free. Now we go back 5 years in the past, before the events that would drastically change the future of General Zhang Beicheng. Specifically, we are transported to a hospital, where a doctor explains to a young son of one of his patients that his father's heart is failing and that the only way to help him is with an emergency surgery. However, this is incredibly expensive. The boy, knowing the seriousness of the situation, tries to explain to the doctor that his family's assets have been completely blocked and that he has no way to pay him right now, but agrees to do so as soon as he can in the hope of receiving help from the doctor and be able to perform the operation that would save his father. His offer is flatly rejected, since it is a hospital, not a kind of charity center, and until the requested amount of money is not paid, they will not proceed with the operation. The young man named Zhang Beicheng despairs because most of his family and friends are not supporting him. They are only avoiding him due to the critical financial situation he is living. However, he decides to go to his grandfather in the hope of being helped. But upon arriving home, he realizes that now the family's assets are in the name of his uncle Zhang Tianming, who is not willing to give him a single penny. He does not care in the least about the situation of the young man. Instead, he takes advantage of the situation to humiliate him. Zhang Beicheng desperately reminds his uncle that when he was bankrupt with millions of debts, his father helped him, paying each one of them and thus saving his company. Just now that it is a critical moment for his father's life, he needs his help. He needs all that money he borrowed, so he can't just stand there and do nothing. His uncle Zhang Tianming, who now has a lot of money, makes him see that he doesn't care about the situation. His father in the beginning had a lot of money, so it was fair that he will help him with his debts, but now that he is bankrupt, it is not important. He lost all his power. Zhang Beicheng, annoyed, starts to hit his uncle. However, he is stopped by the security men, who beat him until they leave him lying on the ground. Already on the ground, Zhang Beicheng hears how his cell phone rings, and when he answers a person, specifically his uncle Wang, he is advised to ask Zai King for money, who at that time was his girlfriend and could support him. With very little hope and full of desperation, he arrives at his girlfriend's house. There was a party with a swimming pool there, so the security of the place does not let him go unless he has an invitation. He manages to sneak in and begins to desperately call Zai King. There he meets his own cousin Chuan Yuan, who makes fun of him as well as all those who were in that place, since he was nothing more than a crawling dog for going to borrow money. He goes straight to look for Zai King without giving importance to the comments of others, but his cousin, to humiliate him, throws him into the pool. But just then his girlfriend appears. Instead of helping him, she makes fun of him. She is not interested in being something of someone who has nothing. She prefers to belong to her cousin who has a lot of money, but that does not mean she will not help him. She throws a credit card at his feet, from which he could get all the money he wanted, with the condition that, once she needs it, she would pay it with blood, sweat, and tears. His cousin is not willing to let him go so easily. She starts to hit him, but he manages to escape. When he gets the money, he goes to the hospital only to realize that he was too late and his father had died. Shocked by the news, he blames the doctor, because if he had proceeded with the operation, he would be alive. At the time of the funeral, the boy did nothing but cry, because he had been left all alone in the world. The people who were there, taking advantage of the moment, grab him, and in revenge, to pay some outstanding accounts with his deceased father, they throw him into the sea, trying to end his life. But they did not count that he would be saved by a military man. The story continues in a different place. We return to the present, where a car is speeding down the main street of the city. Inside the car are Miss Wang Zuwu and her assistant, a girl named Hikayan. She asks Wang Zuwu why she went to personally pick up this Zhang Beicheng, and without giving him time to answer, she speeds up even more, because she cannot be late for the meeting with Mr. Chen, where they will have an investment talk. Wang Zuwu finally speaks up, saying that she goes personally because her father asked her to, and thus she had no choice, asking her to speed up even more. Her assistant replies that she really doesn't understand what her uncle Wang is thinking, as it was obvious that the second miss was the one who gave up her engagement. But just because of that, they forced Wang Zuwu to marry that trash as compensation. But this is not quite, as she has become the first lady of the Zhang family, and so he was simply happy, but instead she was not. We return to Zhang Beicheng, who gets a call from a man called Old He, where he is asked if he is really back. This man is very knowledgeable. He has his own way of doing things, and he lets her know that since he rescued her family 3 years ago, he has been watching her every move quietly. And now that he is back, he is willing to help her with whatever she needs. He warns him that in the city he is in there is still some background, and thus he should have a proper status after leaving, and offers him a group called Rongde. And after a while he lets him know that Secretary Zhang Maya will contact him later. This call is interrupted by Miss Wang Zuwu's assistant, who has arrived to pick up Zhang Beicheng. He drastically changes his expression to look like a kind person and quickly approaches the car. Wang Zuwu says to herself that after 5 years in the army he has not changed at all, that if only he had improved a little he would have been a good husband. At that, her assistant receives a call where she lets her know that Mr. Chen is already waiting for them directly at their home. She is upset, as the work meetings are held at the office, not at their home, at the Wang family mansion. Mr. Chen tells Wang Zuwu's mother that soon his company will receive 20 million investment, and he can share 10 million to Shiyun Company to get Wang Zuwu out of the financial crisis. Wang Zuwu's mother is delighted with this idea. Mr. Chen is willing to share it on the condition that Wang Zuwu will be his wife, divorcing Zhang Beicheng, who is just a nobody. After a long talk, Wang Zuwu's mother is willing to do everything in her power to get her daughter to marry him, Mr. Chen, as this will bring them to a better relationship. Chen, as this would bring them many benefits in the near future. Wang Zuwu has arrived, scolding her mother and Mr. Chen that business matters are not talked about at home, and that's what the office is for. Mr. Chen defends himself because soon they will be a family, and therefore talking at home is the best way to get to know each other. Wang Zuwu's mother agrees and tells her daughter about the generous proposal, all in order to save the company from the financial crisis. She reacts astonished by the large amount of money offered. The conversation extends more and more, and every time they can, her mother and Mr. Chen touch the subject of the benefits that marrying him would bring and annul their old marriage. Zhang Beicheng realizes the plot against him, how they try to denigrate him, but he is not willing to allow it and makes Wang Zuwu see that he can help her. Since he has enough contacts, he can give her her desired 10 million. But she does not believe him, following her mother's advice. Just as she is about to make a decision, Mr. Chen is called. Chen is informed that the Rongding Group had stopped all their investments, so therefore his proposal had been rejected. All the plans, the investments he had made were useless. He had been left bankrupt. He had lost everything. Who would now be in charge of managing the project would be Zhang Beicheng, who upon hearing the news begged for forgiveness, regretted each of his derogatory words, and asked for his help. Zhang Beicheng did not miss the opportunity to remind the man each and every one of the words he said, trying to humiliate him, giving him to understand that he would not help him at all. Mr. Chen desperately suspects that Zhang Beicheng has connections with Rongde and is responsible for the recent news he has received. But the last card he has left to play is to go beg Senior Assistant Zhang to give him another chance. So he wastes no time and leaves. Wang Zuwu's mother, full of anger, blames the man, but she doesn't really have a proof to accuse him. No one would believe that he would have connections with the special assistant Zhang. Wang Zuwu, worried about her company, considers the option of going to beg Mr. Chen to help her once he gets a new investment, which is no use since he is desperate. Bankrupt and furious, Zhang Beicheng offers to help her but is flatly rejected and even more blamed. Just when he was about to give his opinion, he feels a strong pain in his chest, which makes him go up to his room quickly to rest. Being alone in his room, lying on his bed, he takes out a parchment, which has a series of explanations of how to cure wounds and diseases through certain unconventional methods. To achieve a full recovery, he must find the remaining 8 pieces to heal the deep wound in his chest and save his life. Suddenly, he receives a call. It was his high school friend Liu Hu. He heard that he had returned, so he invited him to a reunion of his class. But besides wanting to see him, he had other reasons to invite him. He needed to close a deal with one of his former classmates named Lai Luwei, who is director of a company in Hong Kong. But he refused to sign without first seeing Zhang Beicheng. He decides to go, and once at the meeting place he realizes that this man wanted to see him just to make fun of him. As 5 years ago he asked for money to save his father, and now he was a retired military without any important position. His friend tries to defend him without success, now becoming an object of ridicule. He has no choice but to listen to Lai Luwei, because if he does not close the deal, his wife will leave him. Just before getting on his knees and beg him, Zhang Beicheng decides to act, smashing a bottle on Lai Luwei's head. After this, he kicks him, making him crash against one of the tables. Everyone amazed thinks about how Jing Beicheng has dug his grave, because Liu Wei is one of the most influential and respected people in the whole city, something that does not matter to him. He has been waiting for that moment for 5 years in a row. He will not leave without first making him see that he will take revenge. After having given him a beating, he goes quietly with his friend Liu Hu. Taking a walk down the street late at night, Liu Hu begins to praise him because he faced him without any fear and gave him what he deserved, but confesses that he is a little sad because he does not know with what face to present before his wife and children. He makes him see that he has nothing to worry about, and with a single call gets someone important to sign his contract and destroys all connections Liu Wei's company with wrongdoing, revealing that he is the president of the corporation. When he arrives home, he meets Wang Zuwu, who without letting him arrive completely talks to him about the divorce, because a moment before he arrives he receives a message from the senior assistant Zhang where fortunately for her and her company, she has received an investment of 10 million to continue with her projects from Rongde. She is astonished and thinks that everything is thanks to Mr. Chen for begging him to beg the senior assistant Zhang. He ignores her, saying that he doesn't want to talk about it, but she insists she is willing to give him whatever he wants on the condition that he signs. He is not really interested in any of her proposals and reminds him that he has been in the military for 5 years, so he won't fall so easily into her game. Suddenly, he begins to remember that 5 years ago at that pool party it was thanks to her that he was able to escape, as she not only defended him from the guards, but also from the people who were there. He is not willing to separate from her, even though it was an arranged marriage. He has a lot to thank her for and is willing to help her in any way he can. He promises her that she will not regret having him as her husband. The next morning, in the Wang family business group will give a board meeting, where in addition to the family, only major shareholders can be present. There we can see Wang Zuwu surprised to meet Jing Beicheng, because in her opinion this man has no status, no power. Suddenly Wang Zhu, the eldest grandson of the Wang family, cousin of Wang Zuwu, and head of the company C-Tine of the Wang family group, who surprised to see Jing Beicheng in that place does not hesitate to mock, because he thinks that he is only sitting there thanks to his cousin. He just ignores him, because, although no one is aware, he is very clear about his position. At that moment the president enters the room, an elderly lady, grandmother of the majority, who, surprised to see him, does not hesitate for a second to get information from Jing Beicheng about his life as a soldier for her own benefit. Her attempts were in vain and she begins to make fun of him, since he is a nobody. She goes straight to her granddaughter Wang Zuwu, giving her the news that her company will participate in a swimsuit sales campaign. But if she does not get the expected results, her company will pass to her cousin Wang Zhu. Zhang Beicheng is not willing to allow such disdain for his wife, so he decides to completely take the reins of the Ringding company. In the afternoon of that same day, after the meeting, Zhang Beicheng goes with his friend Liu Hu to the main building of the Ringding company to introduce himself as the new president in charge. Once inside, he meets one of the women who was at the party that day. She begins to mock them, saying that probably both are there to ask for work as a security guard, which she does not need because her boyfriend is a human resources manager and got her a job where she only has to come to sign confirming her attendance and nothing else. At that moment the aforementioned appears, who looks rushed and worried, since the new president will be presented before them and everything has to be perfect. She takes advantage of that and in a mocking tone makes him see that those two guys are there to look for a job, with the plan that her husband will humiliate them, who mocks, saying that if they beg him, he will help them to get a job. At that moment the secretary enters, and when she sees the president, she bows to him together with all the staff, making those two see the big mistake they have made in firing them at that very moment. After having finished all the corresponding presentations, they go to the office, where the secretary informs him that the investment contract with Liu Hu has already been signed, and gives him the files in which there is everything about the new projects in which the company Wang and the company Wiley have great investment capabilities. But Zhang Beicheng has other plans, not far from where they were. In the place of the bidding session we see a group of people talking about the new president, which according to the comments is very strong and strict. In that meeting is Wang Zuwu, who is thoughtful and worried because she must win a great position to increase the money of her family. In that place there is also her cousin, who is careful to humiliate her, in that the president's assistant enters, making known that the Wang group is the one who has managed to get the contract, so she needs the others in the room to leave, including Wang Zuwu, who although she belongs to the company, is not the president. The secretary, using her seduction lots, makes Wang Zhu sign the contract without even reading it. Once at home, Wang Zhu proudly shows the terms of the agreement to her grandmother, the president, only to realize that it was all a trap. The contract dictates that Wang Zuwu's company, according to the contract, becomes the main partner, while Wang Zu's from now on will only be a substitute manufacturer. This is a big surprise for everyone, and her grandmother is very angry, but makes a smart move, appoints Wang Zuwu as vice president, and passes the name of her company to her cousin Wang Zu with the excuse that now she will be very busy and cannot take charge. This gets angry and refuses flatly, so she is not willing to abandon her company that with much sacrifice she took forward with her mother, all for a simple position, nor will she listen to her grandmother, who upon hearing the complaints of her granddaughter, makes a plan because she is not willing to lose, so she fakes a heart attack for everyone in the room to think badly of Wang Zuwu, who upon seeing her hands tied says to give her company and not to bother her grandmother. A few days later we see that Wang Zuwu is very depressed for having given up her company. Suddenly she receives a call, and it was Mr. Chen, who apparently had managed to make a contract with a new partner and was willing to offer 10 million yen to help her, but they must meet right now, late at night. She accepts without thinking much. But her husband Jing Beicheng, who thanks to the rituals he has done, has developed skills beyond human, has heard the whole conversation and is not willing to let anything happen to him. So he decides to follow her. Once at the meeting place, Mr. Chen talks to an investor about an investment in the company. Chen talks to an investor about the great qualities that Wang Zuwu possesses. All this in order to distract her and poison her, but she is not so stupid. She knows that business is not that easy and becomes suspicious. Without wasting time, they pass the contract, distracting her to add a pill to her glass of wine. Believing that she had fallen into their trap, they want to make a toast for the new projects, for everything new that is coming for them. But when she takes the glass, she observes some small bubbles coming out of her wine, confirming her theory. Zhang Beicheng, who saw everything that they had done, stops to try to defend her, but before he gets there she throws the wine in his face, making him see that he would not fall into her trap. She is not so stupid, and that if at some point in her life they cross her again, she will turn them into the police. Jing Beicheng did not even have time to act, and surprised he thinks that this woman is really qualified to be his wife. Outside the restaurant, in the rain, Wang Zuwu does not know what to do. She is deep in thought and feels denigrated. At that moment, her husband Zhang Beicheng arrives with an umbrella, protecting her from the rain and showing his support, making her see that he is there for her, and that things will get better if she stays by his side. Out of nowhere, in the middle of the street, her mother appears along with her grandmother, who furiously insult and beat Wang Zuwu, blaming him for her cousin being detained because she was hurt for losing her company and had him kidnapped. She has no idea what is going on, nor is she guilty of anything. She was not even at the scene of the incident. Her husband, interrupting the fight, defends Wang Zuwu and tells us that a while ago, he received a call where he was informed that Wang Zu was in custody for having bet and lost an exuberant amount of money in the casinos. Jing Beicheng, who is clear of the situation, defends his wife Wang Zuwu, making her grandmother see that she is not to blame for anything. She is angry and tells him to get out of there. He has no reason to intervene in family matters. Annoyed, he makes everyone go to the scene where they find Wang Zu, who is surrounded by a group of armed men who have him tied up so that he does not escape. His grandmother desperately defends her grandson, saying that everything was planned by Wang Zuwu. Jing Beicheng at that moment intervenes, trying to show him the reality. She tells him that she has been informed that her beloved grandson has lost a very large amount of money. And not only that, he owes millions to the owners of the casino, so until he does not pay his debt, they will not let him go. The owner of the casino, known as Oldie, who is the richest man in the city, is present, and when he hears the absurd accusations of the lady, he feels offended and asks her if she thinks he is a man capable of kidnapping someone for money. Knowing that she has offended him, fearing for his company and even for his life, he regrets his words and begins to beat his grandson so that he confesses the truth. This desperate man tells everyone that he bet 300 million and that he has no way to pay them. So he blamed his cousin so that his grandmother, in his defense, could come to his rescue. His grandmother, impressed and annoyed, makes him see that he is useless, stupid, and desperately tries to play the victim and seduce Oldie. But she is nothing more than a simple old woman in his eyes. He is constantly surrounded by young and beautiful women, so his desperate attempts are useless. Speaking of business, Oldie asks her how she intends to pay such a debt. She knows that she does not have so much money, and her only option at that moment was to beg him for mercy. He says he has a plan since he knows that she does not have so much money, so he offers her an option to give his company as payment. Although it does not completely cover the debt, it would be of great benefit, and the rest would be paid by her grandson working as a model or in some other way where he can get high amounts of money. But before that, she will send him to Thailand to have a lot of plastic surgeries on his face. With much desperation, the lady begs him not to take her grandson. In exchange, she offers him her granddaughter, who is beautiful in face and has a magnificent body. He can do whatever he wants with her, break her into pieces if he wants, but on the condition that he please does not take her grandson. Hearing this, Oldie gets even more upset, because he can't stand that there is any distinction or favoritism between men and women. So he gives her an ultimatum, saying that if she doesn't sign that precise moment, he will leave his grandson without the possibility of having children, cutting off his member in front of everyone. Desperate, she signs the contract, but due to the great anger and stress of the moment, she suffers a stroke, staying in bed for the rest of her life. Days later, we see Oldie having a meeting with Jiang Bei-cheng, where he thanks him for having helped save his family a few years ago and gives him all the possessions of the Wang company. He who only did this to help his wife tells him to keep them for the time being, and that little by little he will give them to the true heiress Wang Zuwu. Suddenly, this one feels a strong pain, since the old deep wounds that he has in his chest little by little have been opening. Oldie is scared. He is afraid that something happens to his comrade and decides to do everything possible to help him to find a cure. He lets him know that even the best doctors cannot help him. The only way to save him is to gather all the other remaining pieces of the Xuan King Ju technique. The Oldie sends to look for every clue of the whereabouts of those pieces. He is not willing to allow such an honorable person to die in such a way. Suddenly, Jiang Bei-cheng observes that on the table where all the belongings of the Wang family are, there is an emerald green pendant, which contains inside the aura of Xuan King Ju. So if he can find the origin of that pendant, he can find the whereabouts of the other remaining fragments and thus save his life. When she leaves the room, she finds Wang Zuwu comforting her mother, who is crying inconsolably as she has received strong news. Her husband has just been diagnosed with terminal cancer. Mr. Wang, for Jiang Bei-cheng, is a very special person. He is the only one who, besides his father, since he was a child, has taken care of him and helped him many times, so that was a very shocking news for him. They all rush to Langsang Hospital to see him. Wang Zuwu calls the hospital to let them know that they will soon be arriving. Worried about his health condition, they try to enter as soon as possible, but they are stopped by the doctor in charge of his care and treatment, Dr. Qin Rong, a prodigy doctor of the Wang family who was already waiting for them. She tells them that they have nothing to worry about. Being under her care, he will surely get better soon, as she is the best doctor who can take care of him. But she is not willing to let Jiang Bei-cheng into the room. Wang Zuwu reproaches her for her decision since before arriving at the hospital, in the phone call they had, he clearly wanted to see him. She explains that although he was already under the care of the doctors, due to the delicate stability that Uncle Wang has, it is better that the visits are suspended, at least until the afternoon, since thanks to an injection that she gave him, he will be stable and it is necessary to let him rest. He is not willing not to see his uncle, and he has a bad feeling. He forcibly enters the room, where when he touches him, he realizes that his uncle is about to die. Because although his face was red, his pulse was too low. He quickly asks to be given an acupuncture needle, but everyone ignores him because he is not a specialized doctor. He has no idea how to help him. Suddenly, a doctor reports that his uncle's pulse is plummeting. The doctors in stock, because of how fast things happen, do not know what to do. Jiang Bei-cheng without hesitation rushes to the first aid kit, where he finds a needle and sticks it in his head. He is not willing to let someone so important to him die again and will do everything in his power to save him. He uses his healing technique, which can only be transmitted to another person through metal. And although it will not cure the cancer completely, it will stabilize him for a while. With all his strength, he transfers energy to him, managing to stabilize his uncle, saving his life. The Xuan King technique cannot be discovered, but he knows he must give an explanation for what happened. I learned it in the exercise. He excuses himself in a mysterious tribe on the outskirts of the country, but I cannot reveal more details. All the doctors except for one ask him to teach them this healing technique, since they would save many lives with it. But he refuses. No one can know the truth. There is a commotion, because they were not willing to let him go without first having learned the technique. Qin Rong, who is upset. She knows that Jiang Bei-cheng is hiding a secret. She tells them to shut up. It is more important to concentrate on the patient's stability, so they leave the room in search of equipment to examine him. Once alone in the room, Jiang Bei-cheng comforts Wang Zuwu, who has not yet processed what has happened. She thanks him with tears, hugging him, because he has saved her father. He does not know how to react. He cannot believe what is happening. For the first time, she has shown him a sign of affection. He takes courage and reciprocating her embrace tells him not to worry. He is her husband and he has done nothing but help her, so she has nothing to thank him for. It is time for her to go and rest with her mother, who has fainted from the shock. Take a nap. I will take care of everything that has to do with my uncle. Letting herself be carried away for the moment. Blushing, she calls him her husband for the first time. Once she left, he can't help but regret the sweet melody of her voice, nor the face she made when she called him her husband for the first time. In the midst of his imaginations, his uncle wakes up. He is amazed that he is still alive, since a moment ago he thought he was going to die. With a little more strength in his body, he sits up and tells Jiang Beicheng that he is worried, not for his daughter or his wife. They are prepared for his departure, but he has not been able to overcome the death of his father and is still seeking revenge. He confesses that during all the years he has spent in bed due to his illness, he has not stopped thinking about his father, and that although he could not do much, that has not prevented him from looking for who was really to blame for the death. According to his investigations, the culprit is his older uncle Jiang Tianming, who out of greed was revealing information about the plans and contracts that his father had, making him gradually go bankrupt and end up expelled from the family. Jiang Beicheng, stunned by the great revelation, cannot believe this and with bitterness in his heart swears that he will take revenge on his uncle whatever it takes. Jiang Tianming wakes up exalted from a dream where he remembered his brother. He blames his son Xuanyuan for having been having these nightmares, since according to him, they were a product of stress due to the low financial pressure in which they were, and his son does nothing but delay all those proposals that he has raised. He is worried because he has not yet formed a contract with the Luo company, which would boost them a lot economically speaking. So he calls him, shouting to scold him, and more than that, to blame him, because he has not done anything to benefit the family. He enters the room in a carefree way, telling his father to calm down, since all those projects that he has proposed, especially the Luo company, are already resolved, and he is just waiting for Wang Zuwu's father to arrive there for treatment, because he had a plan to take advantage of the situation. In the city of Yunchen, in the village of the Jiang family, Wang Zuwu is with her mother and her husband Jiang Beicheng. They are there because the Jiang family has a renowned place that offers treatments for the cure of cancer, so hopefully they arrive in search of Zai King, Wang Zuwu's sister. Once at the door, they ring the bell, but no one answers. Wondering what is going on, Jiang Beicheng is not willing to wait for someone to open the door. So with the force of a kick, he manages to open the bars of the main entrance. Upon entering, they find the security guards, who recognize Jiang Beicheng and let him know that he is not welcome. Out of nowhere, at the front door appears his cousin Xuanyuan with his wife Zai King, who are there to receive them. In a bad manner and arrogant attitude, they introduce themselves, welcoming everyone except Jiang Beicheng, who is not allowed in any way to enter that house. Wang Zuwu tries to defend him without success, because the resentment of her sister and brother-in-law towards her husband would not allow her to do anything. Jiang Beicheng, who had sworn revenge, would not let the opportunity pass, and with all his strength would try to pass over the guards and get to the main gate. These actions unleashed a strong fight between the security guards and Jiang Beicheng. He gives the first blow, knocking out the main commander. Everyone is surprised by the great strength that he possesses, but cannot allow under any circumstances that he managed to reach the main gate. One by one were falling at the hands of Jiang Beicheng, all on the floor with heavy bruises. Seeing this, Zai King threatens him. If he does not stop and leave the place, he will call the police to arrest him. He is not afraid, so he continues to advance. Desperate, Xuanyuan and Zai King call the police, who will be there in 5 minutes. For him, 5 minutes are more than enough to give them a lesson they will never forget. Wang Zuwu asks him to stop. He is afraid and does not want to end up arrested. He affectionately tells him not to worry, since he has everything under his control. He manages to advance enough and arrives at the main gate, where he faces his cousin Xuanyuan, who lets him know that he is not afraid of him because he has practiced martial arts these past years. So he hesitates to throw countless punches and kicks, but just before hitting the target, he dodges them backwards. While this was happening, the police arrived, and to Xuanyuan's surprise, he is left as the aggressor. Jiang Beicheng plays the victim, and with blood on his chest accuses him of having given him countless blows with the aim of killing him. He is rescued by the police, who point a gun at Xuanyuan and force him to get into the car. Once behind bars, Xuanyuan only cries, saying that it is not his fault. He has done nothing wrong and is innocent. His wife tries to defend him, but loses patience easily and begins to insult the officer, who tells her that she has no problem to make them change roles so that her beloved husband is free. She gets scared and leaves. They put Jiang Beicheng in an ambulance and take him to the hospital. On the way, the officer introduces herself to him, gives him her card with her phone number, and lets him know that whenever he needs it, she will be there. Once at the hospital, he makes fun of himself, seeing that things went a little far. Suddenly, a person approaches the room. It was his uncle Jiang Tianming, who put his bodyguards to guard the door of the police, giving them the order not to let anyone pass, much less the police, no matter how much noise they heard. He enters the room, where he approaches his nephew, and that with his hand hurts his mouth, and threatens him without thinking twice, telling him that he must change his statement at that moment, saying that everything was a game between cousins that got a little out of hand, so that Xuanyuan is free, otherwise it will make his life a nightmare, more than it was 5 years ago. so Zhang Beicheng pretends to be scared, making him believe that he had him at his feet, and in the slightest carelessness, he manages to grab a finger of his hand and break it. From the pain he screams loudly, alerting the police, but the security guards manage to sing a song and thus manage to fool them. With his finger broken, bent backwards, Zhang Tianming enters into despair, trying to get rid of Zhang Beicheng without success. This completely changes the game, and now it is he who sets the conditions. If he wants his son out of prison and not continue to suffer from pain without fingers, must put all the belongings and wealth of the Zhang family in his name. If he is not willing to accept, he will look for his best lawyers so that Xuan Yuan stays in prison for at least 10 years, and before he could refuse, he bends his finger more, making him swear that he would keep his word. He agrees to comply with all his conditions in exchange for him to change his statement, but he plans to take revenge very soon. As he leaves the room, he scolds his bodyguards for not knowing how to differentiate his voice. He asks them to prepare a document of property delivery where he will give his beloved nephew a part of the company that is bankrupt for extremely high amounts. And we'll see what happens in the next video. Hit the like button and subscribe if you like it, and if you want the next part, write in the comments the word dragon. Thanks for watching.